Supergirl 2026. Been a couple movies named Supergirl TV show, but this is 2026 Supergirl. It was good. As far as DC goes, this was a good movie. A good movie. Not a great movie, but a good movie. There were some things that happened that I just didn't understand. The villain in this show had like a Russian accent for some reason, and the girl, the young girl, the one that played Writhy, she had a British accent for some reason. They're from space, man. They're from other planets. In fact, they're from two different planets. And the dude had a Russian accent. I didn't understand that. And he was zany. A lot of people that are playing villains, modern superhero villains, have seen people like Heath Ledger and Jack Nicholson take the Joker and make him extreme. And then Jesse Eisenberg played a zany Lex Luthor. I did not dig that at all. Giggling and sticking stuff in people's mouth. When you play a DC villain, they're zany. No matter who the villain is, they're all zany for some reason. Now Marvel villains, and I'm being biased because yes, I dig Marvel more since I was a little kid reading the comic books, collecting the comics. I always thought Marvel was better, but Killmonger wasn't a zany character. He was played more realistic by the incredible Michael B. Jordan. Thanos was not zany. Ultron told a joke here or there for some reason, but he wasn't zany. The villain in this movie, Krim, was zany, and I didn't like that. I didn't like that at all. You're supposed to be a villain. You're supposed to be threatening, but he was more cartoonish than threatening, and I was like, I didn't dig that. And he wasn't really threatening. It's just that Supergirl just couldn't get a good hold to him to give him a beating. If she would have, the fight would have been over with like at the beginning of the movie. But things just kept happening. I guess he was super strong. Someone in the movie said he had the strength of 100 men. But they were from a different planet also. There was a lot of aliens in this. They were from a different planet also. So do these aliens have the strength of like regular humans? Less than humans? More than humans? 100 men from their planet is different. Because 100 humans, or 100 Klingons, or 100 Vulcans, it's a completely different scale as far as strength goes. Man, 100 Viltrumites, depending on what planet you're from, you say 100 men, it's different, it varies. So they never really explained it, but he was strong enough with one arm, he could pick Supergirl up and slam her onto a wall hard enough that the wall shook. And with one arm, he caught something the size of like a tank, and he just kind of tossed it away. That was pretty strong. I don't think 100 men could carry a tank, but he was strong. But they didn't really emphasize it because he didn't really fight that much. He showed up, he said some things, a couple one-liners, zigzag, zag, zag, zag. Said, he got his little zany thing on with his bejeweled face. He was bejeweled, and then he moved on. This story is based on a comic book, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Good book. Good book. The story in the movie is slightly different from the story in the comic book. There are some variations. They took a little bit of artistic license when they did this. Um, the villain in the movie and the villain in the comic book look different, completely different, and that's cool. The origin of the sword, that was a big thing in the movie, is different, and that's cool. But essentially, it was the same story, and they added Lobo for the movie, of course. He wasn't in the comic. And something that they did in the movie a lot that I think it was a good idea. I think it may have been done wrong, but I think it was a good idea. When you see Captain America in a Marvel movie, and he's fighting the Winter Soldier or Batroc or somebody like that, there's a chance. He's the hero. He's not going to lose. But there's a chance that he could lose. The other person is physically a threat to Captain America. In a Superman movie, Superman, and this is what I didn't like about DC comic books growing up, Batman was the smartest. But at the same time, Lex Luthor was the smartest. But at the same time, Brainiac was the smartest. Superman was the strongest, the greatest superhero. But at the same time, Wonder Woman was the greatest superhero and the strongest female superhero. But at the same time, Kryptonians like Kara Zor-El, Supergirl, or Power Girl were the strongest. There was too much EST, strong-est, smart-est, fast-est, most invulnerable est. It was too much of that. So when it translates to a movie, Superman is too strong, too fast. He can't be hurt, unless you got some kryptonite, or a different color sun, magic. You can't. He's unstoppable. He's God tier. So when he fights people in the movies, it's not entertaining because he's too fast, he's too strong, he's too everything. He's the est. There's a professional wrestler that says she's the EST, fastest, strongest, smartest, prettiest. DC heroes are the EST of movies, and it's not entertaining. So with Supergirl, even in the Superman movies, the previous Superman movie with David Cornsweet, they had to say he had a physical threat. Who could it be? Well, it was him, cloned in a different suit. Who could beat Superman but Superman? When they did the Supergirl thing, they're doing something. They realized, I think that they realized they had a problem with the power scaling. So they were like, look, kryptonite can hurt him. Kryptonite's in this movie. The yellow sun powers him. There's different colored suns in this movie, and she's planet hopping. Different things that could harm her happened in this movie. For some reason, you can poison a Kryptonian. I didn't think, especially under a yellow sun, I didn't think that was a thing. But apparently it is. So everything that you could do to weaken her power happened to her. Almost everything. And for some reason, okay, under a regular sun, she's a regular person, power scaled like a human. Under a yellow sun, she's God tier, just like Superman, superpowered Kryptonian. All Kryptonians are regular everyday people unless they get into the yellow sunlight. I think Superman's like a Kryptonian mutant. I'll have to make a video about that because he's not a regular Kryptonian. Anyway, she, of course, has a problem with kryptonite. Kryptonite's green. She gets under a green sun and it starts to affect her like kryptonite, and I'm thinking, why? That didn't make any sense. Green sunlight as far as I know, does not affect a Kryptonian the way green kryptonite would. So I don't know what that was all about. Jason Momoa apparently has wanted to play Lobo for a long time. When he got the opportunity to play Aquaman, he took it, of course, but he had a preference for Lobo. He's Lobo in this movie. But to be completely honest, they could have pulled him out. It would have been the exact same movie. His presence in the movie did not alter the movie. He didn't do anything in the movie that made you say, well, they couldn't have survived that if it wasn't for Lobo. Why? They were going to get killed. Then Lobo showed up. Boy, it's a good thing Lobo's bulletproof, or else none of that happened. He tells a couple jokes. He's around. He's in a fight that, his presence didn't change the course of the fight. The fight was going to go the exact same way, whether he was there or not. And then he just kind of took off. And I was like, what? I wasn't impressed with him as Lobo. He did a good Aquaman. There was a run with Aquaman where he had the long beard and the bushy hair, and he was kind of, biker, hippied out, and that made sense for him to play Aquaman with that version. The clean-cut Aquaman that everybody's familiar with, Momoa probably could not have done that Aquaman. But the version he played was in the comic books for a couple of years. He was pretty popular. He also had one hand at that time. But his version of Aquaman, I prefer to his version of Lobo. I'm glad they introduced Lobo. He's a great character. But I did not like him that much in this movie. He was entertaining, don't get me wrong. But it wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting, boom, boy, this next movie's gonna be a Lobo. Nope. In the entirety of the movie, he was probably in it 15 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe, the entirety of the movie. I didn't understand it. And with all of his strength, his speed, his invulnerability, his endurance, someone actually says he's an immortal, which I'm not sure if that's accurate, but he can't go to their universes, heaven or hell, which is a whole other thing too, because it's already been shown, like in Marvel and in DC, that different races have different heavens and hells in other places. So why is he concerned about Earth's heaven and hell? I don't know. But he can't go to them, so he can't die, which still doesn't make any sense, because he can still go to purgatory. He can still die and be a floating ghost. For some reason, he's got to go to one of those two places since he can't, which now he can, because God ripped up his you can't die clause contract. So now, in the comics at least, he can die. This movie was probably being made before that comic book came out. But Wonder Woman gave him, the business. She unalived him, which is now a thing. But apparently he's an immortal in this universe. Have I said that I didn't like the new villain for this movie? Something that happened in this movie that I've always wondered about. Krypton is supposed to be a planet of extremely mentally evolved people, way smarter than humans. Their scientists lead their world along with their military. The military and the scientists go back and forth about who's actually in charge, but the scientists essentially lead their planet. And I've seen movies, we've all seen movies where there's a catastrophe on Earth and they build spaceships to leave Earth or something like that. You know, you've heard of the Apollo 13. Humans can leave Earth in ships big enough to hold more than one person. That's a highly advanced civilization. And Jor-El could only build a spaceship big enough to hold a baby. He could have left, his wife could have left, he could have made like a giant space bus and took a bunch of people, but he just made it big enough for a baby. And then Zor-El, his brother, decides, you know what, I'm going to make a spaceship too, but I'm going to make it slightly bigger, enough for my daughter and her puppy. And he didn't make it big enough for everybody. I didn't understand that. You have that technology and you didn't use it. That's crazy to me. I never understood that. Even as a little kid growing up, I was like, why did he make the spaceship bigger? I always wondered that. But they didn't. There are people know about Kryptonians all throughout space and what happens when a Kryptonian or a Daxamite, which is a very similar thing, leaves their planet and is under a yellow sun. They know what happens. People have heard of them. So that means that Kryptonians have left their planet before and gone to places with yellow suns. But all of a sudden there was no spaceship to get nobody off the planet except Clark and Cora. And you know what? Cora. And you know what? She calls him her cousin Clark. But when she came to Earth, wouldn't she have known him as Kal-El? Wouldn't she know him as that? Why was she calling him Clark all the time? Talking to other people, talking about, yeah, Superman's my cousin, that's Clark. Nobody know Clark. And you telling everybody his secret identity? What if some of those people end up... There was a lot of things that I had questions about. But my biggest takeaway is she spent most of the movie depowered. She got her powers, lost her powers, got her powers, lost her powers. I didn't think Lobo was in the movie long enough. I didn't think the story was great. If I was Supergirl or Superman or Kryptonian or whatever, and someone had wronged me in a way that I needed to get something from them by force, I would use my super speed and run up on them and take it. What are they gonna do to me? I'm Superman, baby. You ain't better give it up. But it wasn't like that. Things kept distracting her. She's like, there's the villain. I'm going to get the villain. Da, 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 da. Oh no, I got to save a kitten from a tree. Things just kept happening to make it so that she just couldn't go grab the guy, shake him really hard, and get, because he's got something that she wants. And the girl, Ruthie, wants revenge, because this dude gave her whole family, the obituary treatment. He perished her entire family. So she wants revenge. And he did it because he wanted their family sword that's unbreakable, but they never used it as an unbreakable sword in the whole movie. They were never like, look, it can cut right through a table, or it never cut through anything. They held it. I'm thinking, why would you lead us to that point and not go beyond that point? I think they're leaning towards dark side, becoming a dark side. When in Peacemaker, he has technology that takes him from one dimension to another dimension. I was thinking it was reminiscent of a boom tube. In this show, Supergirl, there were some pirates that have this technology. It's a small device, a small box, that they can use essentially to teleport from place to place. In other words, to go from here, boom, possibly to another dimension. It could be apocalypse tech. I don't know. But it seems like some of these movies are hinting towards Darkseid. Clearly they're hitting towards Brainiac because, I mean, it's Superman. They're in space. They're opening up the cosmic universe. So when I think about it, I'm starting to think about all of the cosmic superheroes that could show up. Lobo is an obvious choice. He's a cosmic bounty hunter. Kryptonians. Gotta bring in Daxamites. Gotta bring in a few people eventually. But I thought the movie was okay. It was not great. I would put Peacemaker and the recent Superman movie a couple steps above this one. But this movie was more of a, hey, did you guys know that there was a Supergirl and a Lobo? And look, there's all these different aliens from outer space. There's an alien that I guess is like a chicken or a cow. They use it for food. But the way they eat it is they feed it, and then it defecates these little balls, and it's like popcorn. They just pick them up and Supergirl's like, she eats one and says, oh, it tastes like yeah, did you see where it came from? I wouldn't have put that in my mouth. I think the movie was okay, but I think it was just a bridge to future stuff. And saying that, I would give this new Supergirl movie 6 bags of popcorn. 6 bags of popcorn. Because that's what I think about that. More importantly, what do you think about that? Now that you've seen the video, let's talk about it some more in the comments. And as always, if you like the video, if you like the content, subscribe. And then like.